딱히 언제다라고 정확히 모르겠는데 거의 초등학생 때 아빠도 게임 좋아하셔가지고 컴퓨터를 사셨거든요. 그래서 진짜 컴퓨터 없이는 못 살 정도로 좀 되게 재밌게 했고요. 스타를 제일 처음 접한 건 그 PC방에 가니까 다 스타 아니면 디아블로를 하고 있더라고요. 그래서 아, 저게 좀 재밌나 보다 하고 저도 같이 시작했는데 TV에서 프로게이머 선수들이 플레이하는 모습을 보고 좀 그 모습에 빠져서 제가 그 꿈을 꾸게 된 것 같아요. 제가 아마 진짜 거의 막 초등학교 입학하고부터 장래희망에다 프로게이머를 썼으니까 거의 한 7, 8살 때 보지 않았을까요? 일단 처음 갈 때는 좀 기대됐죠. 이제 제가 좋아하는 프로게이머를 하게 되는 거니까 형들도 되게 잘해주고 좀 되게 편하게 게임만 할 수 있는 분위기를 만들어 주시더라고요, 다. 그래서 되게 괜찮았던 것 같고 반대로 이제 좀 싫었던 점은 그걸 한 1, 2주 반복하니까 좀 질리더라고요. 게임을 진짜 많이 했어요, 처음 들어갔을 때. 아직도 기억나는 게 아마 거의 한 새벽 4시가 됐는데 제가 아직 한 10게임 정도가 남은 거예요. 근데 그걸 이제 말씀을 드렸는데 아, 다 채우고 들어가라고, 10게임 다 하고 들어가라고. 그냥 제일 뚜렷하게 기억나는 건 역시 데뷔전이 여명에서 GSTL 할 때 선봉이었거든요. 제가 장민철 선수랑 1세트 때 만났는데 그때 한창 장민철 선수가 좀 되게 잘하는 이미지였어요. 되게 토스 원톱 약간 이런 이미지였는데 이길 수 있다라는 생각을 가지고 열심히 연습해가지고 어떻게 보면 되게 좀 첫 판부터 압도적으로 이겨가지고 되게 기뻤던 것 같아요.
You know, I have felt for years now that Dark has been the best or second best Zerg in the world pretty much non-stop.
사실 저는 뭐 언제나 주목을 받아야 될 실력이라고 생각을 하고 있었는데 작년에도 좀 못 받았다 생각하거든요. 그래서 그때마다 좀 되게 속상하기도 하고 화를 느꼈던 것 같아요. 다른 선수보다 잘하는데 그 선수가 더 주목을 받으면 되게 질투나고 항상 제 실력에 자부심이 있었던 것 같아요. 처음 시작할 때부터 아, 난 재능노니까 다 잘하겠지라고 생각했던 것 같아요. 친구를 다시 이제 와가지고 만나기 시작할 때 얘기를 해주더라고요, 저한테. 너 학교 그만둔다 했을 때 아, 제 인생이 망했구나. 여기서 끝났구나라는 생각을 했었대요. 근데 이렇게 성공하는 모습 보니까 되게 좀 저를 자랑스럽게 생각하는 것 같더라고요, 최근에 보니까. 동생도 그리고 동생 주변에 스타 하는 애가 있는데 그 애가 저를 계속 언급하다 보니까 더 자랑스럽게 생각하는 것 같아요. 저보다 비등한 선수는 있지 잘하는 선수는 없다 생각하고 저는 언제나 제가 최고라고 생각하고 있기 때문에 뭐 누굴 보고 본받고 싶다 이런 건 없는 것 같아요.
If Dark continues on this path of like win a Star League, get second place in the next Star League, maybe he wins BlizzCon, I don't know. Definitely he can build his name up to such a place where his name becomes synonymous with StarCraft. I don't think that it will replace previous names, but Dark, maybe he could join that pantheon of nerd gods if he keeps this up.
저는 솔직히 근데 요한이 형도 그냥 뛰어넘고 싶어요, 솔직히. 그게 그냥 스타면 요한이 형, 어른들도 다 아시잖아요. 요한이 뭐 하는 사람이고 어떤 사람인지. 근데 저는 그 요한이 형보다 더 유명해지고 싶어요, 사실. 제 꿈은 그거예요. 우리나라에서만 유명한 게 아니고 그냥 전 세계적으로 유명한 선수가 되고 싶어요.
Two times this year, Dark has played in Star League. He reached the final twice, winning once in Season 1 and then second place in Season 2. He's a fantastic player and he will be playing on stage in a couple of minutes. Joining me on the couch, though, we have In Control, who is looking marvelous as ever. We have Pig, who just finished his cast, and of course, Artosis in his wonderful yellow shirt.
You're looking marvelous, too.
Gentlemen, Dark really is one of the best. I mean, you said it in the video there, Artosis. He is really one of the best Zerg players, if not the best we've seen in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, and I would stand by that. Like, he has just been a force to be reckoned with. He uses his own style. He can play all the styles, but this guy is a hardcore macro Zerg, and when every other Zerg in Korea had a really tough year, that was just the race in Korea that was down this year, and Dark non-stop was at the top of the heap, beating everybody consistently, and in fact finished #1 in the WCS ranking system. So I mean, this guy, he stands apart from everyone else.
And his story kind of tells that as well. He's just like, I was upset when I wasn't the best. I will be the best. And here he is on the biggest stage, and he's a likely contender for that trophy, Jared.
Absolutely. I mean, Dark here, he's been the guy that Zerg players look up to for a long time because he can explode, as Dan said, into that crazy aggression, but he can also be the absolute tip-top macro player. He's got that range, which very few other players have, and he's got the decisiveness, which we really only see in that champion quality of player.
Yeah, I thought his series against Stats was very telling. It wasn't like a one-dimensional series where he only won off of one thing. We saw a pretty good breadth of play from him. And we even saw an adjustment game where actually he did lose the late game in that game number 1, and it went kind of the full distance in terms of tech. And the next 2 games were adjustment games. And it's very interesting to see that, because a lot of times StarCraft players will tend to come into a tournament like this with structured ideas like, this is what I do. If it doesn't work, I'm in a lot of trouble. We're seeing players like TY and now Dark adjust on the fly and make those and be flexible, and it's really cool to see.
And he's going to be going up against the player that everybody's excited for, everybody's been talking about, and that is Neeb, who has risen to tremendous heights in the last 12 months or so. He recently traveled to Korea. He did the unthinkable, Autosis. He picked up a Korean title in Korea and now plays on the biggest stage in America, where he's from. Big achievement.
You know, he's just, it's such a story to have been around in StarCraft for so long. And it's been, since a non-Korean won a Korean title in StarCraft at all, whether it be StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2. And believe me, non-Koreans have been trying the entire time and putting in the hours. But this is the first time in 16 years. So that is a hell of a long time. And for Neeb to do that right now at the peak of Korean power, it's crazy. This guy is the non-Korean hope. We consider him overall to be the best non-Korean player. And I mean, we just have to see, this is the ultimate test.
Yeah, and I love that you said that it's the ultimate test, because for me it really is. We've been talking about Neeblet all year long. He's had good results. He did win the Kespa Cup. There's a lot of glitz and glamour there. But so far we've seen his PvP, which everyone knew was very, very good. And he beat Patience twice and had a good series against Zest. Like, that's a good tournament, but that's not mega legendary status just yet. If you can beat Dark in the round of 8 and put yourself in the top 4 of a tournament like that, but show that you're not just a PvP specialist, all of a sudden it becomes, wow, that 18-year-old kid is something to talk about for, you know, a decade to come.
Pig, you're a Zerg player yourself. You've played in competitions all across the world. What is it about Neeb's Protoss that, as a Zerg player, you look at and say, ooh, yeah, that's difficult to play against?
You know, I feel like Neeb is a guy who understands how to win a game in many different ways, but especially his defense is the thing which stands out. He's a guy, a lot of people would say he got famous off Adepts, he got victories off Adepts, but it really wasn't just the Adepts, it was the fact that he was impervious to all-in attacks. He could defend everything, he's so good at scouting, and I would actually say the only weakness I really see in him recently is maybe being a twinge overly defensive and actually sitting back too long. I feel like that's how Zest managed to beat him in the group stage in the round of 16. I feel like his recent loss to Scarlet in a PvZ was also the same sort of thing, sitting back a little bit too much. The thing is, he's one of the few players who can sit back and still just play out a reactive game so perfectly.
It's really interesting that you say that you think that might be his weakness, because for me, that's where Neeb is standing apart from the other Protosses here, is that he will sit back and he won't attack. Like, for instance, on Frozen Temple, where Showtime just went, he had an army that we kind of thought, like, yeah, this might be able to break that 4th base. Neeb probably wouldn't have attacked there. He probably would have sat back and said, now I need Psystorm. Okay, now I need Tempest. And, you know, he would have just crossed every T, dotted every I, and had that ultimate late game army. And that is really where Neeb excels. And I feel like that's going to be where his power is here. And if he's going to beat Dark, I think it's going to be long games, not just Adept all-ins.
And it's funny you say that, because some inside information here from Neeb himself is that he said that Dark is very good at finding himself getting into a lead early on. And Neeb says as long as that lead isn't like a massive, massive lead. He's got no worries whatsoever the longer the game goes against Dark.
I mean, in all 3 matchups, we see him trying to drive it into that late game because I guess that is where he's most comfortable. But to go back to their debate, I really like it. I think that it's going to be fun to watch for because it's an extremely tedious line. It's not like this amazing pasture where like, okay, it's in the late game, Neeb wins. It's not like that at all. Because you can wait too long. You can see the window of opportunity close before you, or you can strike too early. And it's amazing to see Neeblet trying to straddle that line.
All right, well, I've been told the players are ready, so we'll go over to that very shortly, though. But I do like the prediction game. Of course, it's the last thing we always do. Artosis, you shall begin.
Oh, God, it's such a hard one because I just kind of feel like I talked myself into Neeb by saying he's not going to attack Dark because I think that is going to be the key to how Dark goes down. If you look at his series against Stats in the group round, the game he lost was the one where he went to the ultra macro game and Stats just sat there and built a perfect army. So that definitely would go towards Neeb, but I think Dark is, he's too strong. I'm going to have to go with Dark. I think it's going to be super close, 3-2.
Pick Zerg or Protoss?
You know, there's just something about Dark. There's something about Dark's experience, though, that really does give me confidence in him. I think if Neeb plays his A game, he can definitely take this, but I'm going to bet on Dark 3-2.
I'm going to call the upset, and I do think it would be an upset. I think Neeblet wins this 3-2, 3-1, and I'm feeding off of Dan's point. I like that late game play. I think the games that Dark won, one of which against Stats, by the way, was a kind of dumb build, like going for the gold as the expansion, just losing the lane baneling. I don't see Neeblet shedding off those games. I see him securing the wins.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. I hope you're excited at home. I hope you're excited here at BlizzCon as well, because we're going to see Neeblet versus Korea yet again.
The 2016 World Championship Series Global Finals is brought to you by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
Laser with an impressive 3-1 victory over Showtime now waits in the semifinals to see which one of our next 2 players will move on to face him. Our first player is a Korean Zerg who's had one of the best years yet. He's been one of the most consistent players with 2 first-place finishes, while his opponent is the lone American Hope, the first non-Korean to win a Korean tournament in over a decade. Please welcome on stage, Dark and Neeb!
Ladies and gentlemen, what a matchup we have right here in the WCS arena. It is Korea versus the United States. It is champion versus champion. It is the best versus the best. And we have on hand the hypest crowd to make this one of the ultimate matches of all time.
Absolutely. This is rank 1 from the Korean circuit against rank 1 from the WCS circuit. Two absolute beasts here. And in this matchup as well in particular, both of them are really good. We just saw a PVZ in Elaser against Showtime. I think Elaser upset a lot of people there, including Showtime. So I can't wait to see the dynamic that there's going to be from having seen those games here with these two that were watching it backstage and have been preparing to face each other.
You're about to see a very unique matchup. This is the first time they've faced each other. And of course, we find ourselves now in StarCraft history in a unique position where we have a non-Korean champion in a Korean tournament from the United States, the lone American player facing off against the absolute best that Korea has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness history. Let me hear you. A best of 5 for the ages, potentially the most exciting match we have ever seen in professional StarCraft 2 history. And here we go on Frozen Temple, spawning to the northwest position. Fighting out of Seoul, South Korea, he is your WCS Korea Cross-Finals champion. In the blue trunks playing Zerg, it's Dark! Versus his opponents. Fighting out of New York, United States of America, he is your reigning Kesper Cup 2016 champion. In the red trunks playing Protoss, the one, the only, Neeb!
Both players coming off an absolutely unreal 2016. Dark, though, he was the only one that revealed some things in the previous round because he faced against two Protoss, T-Drogo and Stats. He very easily disposed of them with a 2-0 and 2-1, whereas Neeb only played against Protoss as well, so he only showed his skills in Mirror so far. So this is a big test here ahead of him. He's been preparing intensely for it, and so has been Dark. I spoke a little bit with him. He told me that even prior to this tournament there, he had watched all of the VODs of Neeb, and now when the quarterfinals were drawn, he thought that was going to be a fairly easy matchup, but as the time of the match was coming in and closer, and they were about to play, he was getting a little bit more nervous and was saying maybe it's not going to be as easy as he thought, and he said that he thought he had a 60% chance to win here against Neeb.
Interesting when you look at the statistics that historically Dark's weakest matchup has been against Protoss, but his recent form, the last 20 matches versus Protoss, he has won 16 of them, 80% win ratio. That is unbelievably high.
Yes. Neeb's solidity against Zerg, though, I think it might be one of the best things here that he's going to have playing in his favor. We saw Showtime earlier in the one map that he won against Elaser, used a lot of adepts. Guess what? The key unit here for Neeb in this matchup, his favorite unit at which he's really good at, is obviously the adepts. He almost always opens with a very quick resonating glaives, goes very quickly behind this into 2 additional gateways, and likes to get a lot of adepts out on the map for some harassment, scouting. If he sees any opportunity to basically punish your grid and snipe a couple drones, he's almost always going to go for it. So Dark's going to have to be on point on the unit production and actually catching one of his adepts here early on.
Lovely surround there by Dark, and first blood for the Korean Zerg.
And that's going to weaken the push of Neeb if he wanted to go for it, just because these gateways, they line up very well with when his warp gate finishes. But Dark is actually going for a huge attack there. Look at how many roaches he's getting. He wants to test the defense of Neeb. He already in game number 1 on Frozen Temple.
He absolutely does, and that Resonating Glaive upgrade is on the way, but it is not done as of yet. And when it comes to the size of the army, Neeb barely has one. Warp gate it's not even done yet. A couple of seconds, he'll be able to warp in some more units, but this is a very aggressive early opening right here from Dark.
Where is the Mothership Core here? There
Here it is.
It doesn't have that much energy. I think he must have
It
delayed
really is not. One
bit.
photon overcharge. He tries to break the front. So far not able to do it. Morphing in a Ravager. This attack is not going to stop, though. This isn't just a poke. This is an attempt to end Neeb early.
Dark has absolutely no intention to macro behind this. He's on 20 drones. This is either going to work or it's not.
This is a straight up all-in right now here from Dark. Neeb's defenses will be tested to the max. He will be put under incredible pressure here. The probes pulled off the line here as well. Ravager Bile falling from the sky. The army of the Protoss melting rapidly. There's an Immortal about 10 seconds away from completion. That could turn the tide, but the economic damage is massive. 15 probes destroyed. Dark has equaled the economy of the opponent, but here it is. The Immortal out for Neeb. This is his unit. This is his chance to try and come back from this. The 2 Adepts falling rapidly, but the Immortal, shot after shot, salvo after salvo, into the rapidly dying army of Dark, but the Immortal falls.
And there's going to be way more Zerglings coming in from behind there. Neeb might have to abandon his second base, which might mean game here at the same time. He's robo, he's unpowered, and there's just going to be Ravagers, Roaches, and Zerglings down his ramp here. I think taking out his expansion from there, it's almost an unrecoverable position here for Neeb.
It's an incredibly hard position to come back from. There's no doubt about that. And Dark decided to go with that early gambit. We have seen so many Korean players attempt this, just to throw a foreign player off early on, just put on incredible pressure, and we're seeing it executed to perfection right here by the rank 1 Korean player.
Actually, you're going to use an overcharge here to try and take some of those units out, and an Overlord. Dark now droning up. He knows that he's done enough damage. The fact that he started that 3rd hatchery on the 3rd base, by the way, a pretty big deal, because he's going to be able to saturate that pretty easily with the early lead that he has. And Neeb, desperate times call for desperate measures, and he's going to be going for a Dark Shrine to try and recover in this game.
When behind go Dark Shrine, it's certainly a gambit, it's certainly a risk, but it's a gamble that he needs to take right now after the amount of damage. He is not down and out as of yet. That was not a game-ending attack, but it was a crippling attack. The damage was done, and this puts Neeb in a position where he must do something radical to come back. He brings in his Adepts immediately. The Lings of Dark surround and attempt to shut them down. We're going to see a Shade warping, but most of the Adepts are dead already. It doesn't matter. There's a single Adept in the base. It's going to get some decent harassment, do a little bit of damage, but more needs to be done. Far, far more for Neeb.
Yeah, Neeb must be getting desperate here, even more here, I think, at this point. He saw that there was Spore, still doesn't cancel the Dark Shrine here, which is a little bit surprising. If he had a Robo, he could have gone for some Archons, you know, and drop them and try and harass those mineral lines, but now he just ran from bad to even worse here for Neeb.
It's interesting to see that Dark, of course, he's teching up here. He's moving in to legs, trying to solidify that lead, and he played safe, realizing, of course, what could happen here? What are the things that could catch me off guard? Down go the safety spores. He doesn't get too impetuous. It's the mark of a truly patient professional.
Absolutely, yeah. You really have to be one of the absolute best to ask yourself what could be the one thing you could be losing to. The income, as our observer is pointing out, massively in favor here of Dark at this point. And Neeb just made an Archon there. He's just going to be at home here for now. The fact that he doesn't have a Warp Prism doesn't allow him to be across the map and harassing with this, which usually is the whole point of getting Archons in a game like this. But Neeb is just so good mechanically that sometimes in this kind of game he can recover somehow just by staying solid, taking a 3rd base, saturating it, and playing very defensive. But against Dark in this game, I feel like it's hardly ever going to happen now, because Dark is so good himself.
The Archon is, of course, a powerful unit. The Dark Templar not being used as a result of Neeb knowing that his opponent was prepared for that, had Spore Crawlers, an opportunity perhaps to shoot down the Overseer, but Neeb didn't quite see it, wasn't able to get it. And the Archons will be able to hold a choke point incredibly well. He can take a very, very good fight, an incredibly efficient fight that puts him in a much better position, but there's no question right now he's playing from behind.
Every single time that Neeb sends units out on the map, they get caught and sniped as well. I think he used those Adepts here though, to send the Zerg army out of position, so he could get a cancel on that fourth base. Maybe try and catch up on the base count with taking his own third pretty soon, but Neeb is actually adding more gates and a force there instead of starting a third Nexus or something like a Robo.
Wasn't able to get the fourth base either. A response with a Roach and Ravager. There's the recall. And Archon picked off, though, a hugely expensive unit at this stage of the game.
Double the supply at this point there, and then Dark is going to crank out more and more Roaches, having forced a recall as well. He knows that's going to be even less energy available for this overcharge, so he might go for an attack here.
It looks like he wants to certainly pile on the pressure, knowing, of course, that he picked off an Archon and there were only 2 in the process. He perhaps sees a window. He's right. Look at the army supply, 80 to 18. And sometimes supply doesn't tell the story, but with something this extreme, and that Archon is actually stuck. He can't get it out to defend the third base. It's going to have to go to the high ground. GG! A tap out, realizing that that was not a tenable position for him. What a strong, aggressive start here from our Korean Zerg player, Dark, capitalizing on his precision, his technique, and of course his experience in pro-level tournaments. Gets himself a map in this best of 5.
He opens up the series with Fireworks, and those are a build that we don't usually see particularly work. Maybe Neeb was a little bit nervous. I don't think that defense was up to par with how he usually does against this. Losing the first Adept was obviously not the best, and behind this, he just didn't see the attack coming, even though he had spotted the Roach Warren with the initial first Adept that he has sent across the map. So this attack comes, he's not ready, and I think he misreacted a little bit. Pulled the probes too late, they were being blocked by his own Adepts. Bai landed on top of all of his Adepts as well, so from there it's very hard to recover, and Mothership Core as well just didn't have enough energy to use a lot of these key overcharges that I think he would have needed to hold these two.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You were asking at the start of that engagement, where is that Mothership Core? Along it comes, and you realize that it came out late, it had very little energy. The timing of that attack was so quick, was so aggressive, it would have been hard to hold regardless, but you've got to give credit to Dark for executing it as well as he did.
And I believe this was Dark's map, as he vetoed Frost, Neeb vetoed Apotheosis, and now we're going to be headed to New Gettysburg. Neeb's map pick, the one map that stats beat Dark on earlier in the tournament.
Could, of course, be a harbinger. We may see a repeat of that particular result here. And Neeb, of course, needs to ensure that he psychologically stays in a great place and that he doesn't allow the pressure to get to him. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. New Gettysburg will be the venue for map 2 in this best of 5 series. To the southeast position. In the red trunks. In fact, to the southwest position. In the blue trunks, currently leading 1 game in this best of 5 series, playing Zerg, it is Dark! And his opponents. To the southeast position, in the red trunks playing Protoss. He is currently a 1 game behind in this best of 5 series from the United States of America. It is Neeb! An understandably partisan crowd right here for the American hope, and perhaps for the first time in history, we are looking at not something that could be considered an underdog story.
Yeah, it's crazy how times change, and now we've got a guy here who can go head-to-head with some of the absolute best players in the world, and he comes from America in Neeb. But a little bit of an unusual opener here from Dark. Open with a fairly quick gas into Pulse, so he's going to be making speed pretty early on. With how aggressive he played in game number 1, you have to wonder, is this just for safety with maybe something like Pneumatized Carapace to scout, or is he actually going to maybe drop links, or even go for something like a Roach attack with a drop and burrow like we saw him do against T-Drogo earlier? Anything's possible here out of Dark, and that's what also makes him so dangerous.
There's no doubt about that. That 1 map advantage often gives these players a bit of a comfort zone, and we do, from time to time, certainly see an aggressive game 1 from a Korean player, and then a safer game 2, knowing that they have a comfortable advantage, and they're trying to make sure that they don't make a mistake and give that advantage away. We will see very soon, of course, what that turns into. So a little bit of nice probe harass early from Neeb, who was able to delay the hatchery going down. That's always a good thing to do, a good sign of confidence.
Dark has a lot of gas.
He does.
And he's still mining quite a bit of it. Stargate is going to start here from Neeb. I think what happened in game number 1 is that basically Neeb gave so much thought into countering Zergling, Baneling Ravager, and, you know, Baneling drops and stuff that he completely forgot that you can cheese in StarCraft. And to be honest, cheese, we haven't seen that many of them, and most of those that we've seen haven't been successful. So Dark used that to his advantage, surprised him, and that all-in just worked.
A couple of Lings make their way in here. Great probe micro so far, however, from Neeb, not losing a single probe. A little bit of mine save, but look at that. That is, of course, the Pneumaticized Carapace upgrade coming in for the Overlords, and that looks like we are going to see some sort of drop play coming out of the Zerg.
It might just be for scouting. He saw a Stargate, so you would think that's not needed, but maybe he just wants to make sure there isn't something like a 7 gates behind it, which if you don't go for Pneumatized Carapace and there is a Stalker, that's always going to be denied. Could go for drop as well later down the line, though. Not necessarily quick. Like, I mean, we haven't seen an Evolution Chamber just yet here be started from Dark, so third base early on is what's going to be used here by Neeb, and on this map, I can't blame him. It's one of the best maps to early expand like this.
And so far, so good for the defense for Neeb, obviously not showing that he's been shaken by the previous map result, which is incredibly important. You don't want to get into that dark place. And Neeb is heading across the map now with an Oracle, looking to do some damage. I believe it was seen by the Lynx.
Yeah, Dark, remember when he lost on that map against Stats earlier in the tournament, that was because they went into a very long game, and after taking or getting rid of the entire army of Stats, he remaxed, or he made something like 30 Corruptors. And then Stats was like, oh yeah, you want to make Corruptors? I'll just mass Stalkers and kill you. And that's exactly what happened.
That is an example of Neeb's precise control. One mistake, that Oracle would have been gone. He does get a couple of drones from that, but there was already a Spore Crawler and Queen in position to deflect. There is an additional Oracle that was added. And now we're seeing a transition into Phoenix.
Yeah, and a Baneling Nest as well. So you called out the drops, and it's going to be there somewhere down the line. The fact that he already has Overlord speed makes it so hard to find all of these guys, because even if you clear out all of the Overlords around your base, there could still be one hidden somewhere that flies into your middle line, and there it is. It works. It snipes all of your drones. So Neeb's going to have to look out. I was talking earlier about this with him, and he was telling me that he thinks that if one Baneling drop does a little too much from there, it's almost unrecoverable. You basically have to all in, or you have to play from very far behind. So he plans on, if he faces Baneling drops, basically leaving a couple Stalkers per middle line, usually around 3, and then later when you finally want to move out, you get 2 cannons per middle line, and make sure that you don't lose any probes if you can.
Drop Overlord on the way, and I'd like to just comment on just how exceptional it was to the 1-2 punch with the Oracle harass. Using the first Oracle to draw the Queen out of position while he backstabbed the middle line with the second. He did some economic damage, not a huge amount, but now he realizes the Age of Oracles is over.
TB, this is unusual. Dark has stopped making drones at 42, and he's only making Zerglings. He's making a Queen extra as well here, so I think he might be going for a massive attack with a ton of Banelings, hoping that there is not going to be enough on the ground, because Oracles were made and use all of their energy as well.
And of course,
he's only making units.
He is, and that Phoenix isn't really going to help all that much either. It's not enough Phoenix to bring down a large number of drop Overlords. The damage just isn't enough. We're going to have to see great force fields here. What he does have the edge of is that he did get that revelation on a large group of Lynx. He knows an attack is coming. He's under no illusions at this point. Oh, and here we go from 2 separate sides with a drop Overlord available, trying to drop out of position. There are very limited force fields. However, in come the Banelings right into the center of the army. A massive detonation. The Protoss army taking devastating damage with 4 Queen support having been brought off the map as well. And the third is being ravaged.
And the Mothership Core is going to get so late to the party here. It's almost full energy and hasn't used a single overcharge yet. He's just going to recall out.
Recalls the probes out to save some of his economy. A smart move, but GG again. Dark. He wants to end this early. He wants to prove his point.
Neeb simply misread the situation here. He had way more walkers already, but he didn't think this was going to be an all-in. He was wrong, and he paid the price for it.
He absolutely did, and in Legacy of the Void, seeing this twice in a row is quite unusual. This more aggressive play style, this more all-or-nothing attempt, almost a gamble from Dark.
Korean Zergs in the past, they've shown us that They are not afraid to be aggressive in those intense, high-pressure matches here on the biggest offstage at BlizzCon. And Dark here, yet again, plays extremely aggressive. Known for his macro, known for going in the late game and being very good at it. He says, you know what? I'm just going to attack and kill you. And apparently it works out pretty well because he's up 2-0 here in this series.
There is one disadvantage with being the first ever non-Korean champion in a Korean tournament. All eyes fall on you. The Korean pro scene, the Korean fans, the Korean coaches, they have been studying Neeb more than any other player they've ever faced from outside of Korea, because that result was that surprising. It was so unprecedented. And it seems to me, right now anyway, that Dark has Neeb's number.
Yeah, again, remember, he told me that he watched all of Neeb's VODs against Zerg before leaving here to BlizzCon, and then again when he knew that he was going to face him. So he studied his opponent very hard, and he might have realized that late game, as good as a Zerg is versus Protoss in the late game, and as good as Zerg can do in some of these games, Neeb is just so insanely good in the late game. So he thought maybe if I just attack and he's not ready, it might work, and it did.
It absolutely did. And this could be a bitter, bitter end for the American hope. But he's not out yet. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Currently up 2 maps in this best-of-5 series. He is on match point, 1 game away from the semi-finals. To the southeast position in the blue trunks, playing Zerg. He is your rank 1 player in the world. He is looking to close this out, shut it out with a clean sweep. It is Dark.
Spreading creep to the stage.
He's doing more than spreading creep. He's spreading his influence, spreading his legacy, spreading his reputation. He wanted to be known as the best, and he's on stage right now trying to prove it. This is the man that stands in his way. Bruised, battered, bleeding, but not out. To the northwest position here on King Sejong Station. In the red trunks, playing Protoss, it is Neeb!
Neeb must stay calm here and not get frustrated by the way this has gone, because so far it's definitely been going very badly for him, especially that last game. Definitely something he can have regrets about. He had Oracle Sun on the map. He saw a lot of Zerglings headed for him. He knew that the Zerg had a lot of drones. He's just so uncommon to be hit by this kind of massive link bailing attack that I think he just simply didn't expect it. So it's something that you look at and you're like, oh, if I had known, I would just held super easily. But StarCraft is not that easy. That's why it's one of the most complex games where you need to be on point with everything. And Neeb needs to make this adjustment now. With the fact that he played against 2 very aggressive builds, I think now he's going to go the extra mile with the scouting and trying to figure out what Dark is going into.
Yeah, I mean, he already sent the probe over last game and got a little bit of an idea. And he even, of course, had those 2 oracles, access to the Revelation. And as you said, it seemed like to some degree he misread the situation. Maybe he is playing at this point against himself in his own head. He's overthinking, and he's not doing the most logical thing. You pointed out where, again, was the Mothership core in the defense of that third. It got there so late. Why was it not there perhaps already? It could have turned the tide. And against a player of this caliber, one mistake is one mistake too many.
And Neeb actually, I think he's really wary of the aggression here of Dark. He gets the Mothership core super early. Roti would be so happy. Pneumatized Carpet gets started, but Dark actually, he's not mining much gas behind this, so it might be a good time for Dark to just drone up really hard and use the image that he has built in the previous games.
Yeah, we've seen the idea that you would use a speed overlords relatively early to perhaps fake a drop to freak out your opponent, to make them overreact in some way. It's worked before, and that could very well be what he is doing here, as opposed to going for yet a third aggressive build. You could say, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but if you keep doing the same thing, your opponent is absolutely going to adapt to your Mothership core harassment. This time we see a little bit of early game aggression, and it actually gets a drone in the process as well, which is absolutely fantastic. A great little start here for Neeb.
Yeah, that was great. I didn't expect that to happen.
A Dark Shrine going directly underneath that Overlord. And I mean, he knew. He saw the Overlord coming in right there. He knew it was there. He obviously doesn't seem to be too worried about hiding that. What do you think about it?
Nowadays, when you see Dark Shrines like this, it's to get 2 Archons out on the map very early. You can afford that gas-wise just because DTs are less expensive in gas than High Templars are to make Archons. And you get a War Prism with them. You drop the Archons and you try and snipe drones basically all over the place. When you have Neeb's macro and just his mechanics in general, he's going to be able to sometimes do a little bit of damage and at the same time just keep up with his macro, take that 3rd base and go into a longer game. So he's just a super solid opener all around. Things have changed in StarCraft 2. It's not like it used to be where you open Dark Shrine and if it's spotted, like you kind of lost, right?
Yeah.
You know that DTs are going to fail. And he forces Spore as well through this, so it's a great start, I think, on this map in particular, and Neeb is really good at it. So far, I'm really liking his position here. I mean, by all means, Dark hasn't attacked and killed him yet.
No, he absolutely has not. Neeb form so far on this map has been impeccable. Mothership Core always in the right position. Mothership Core harass. Not too impetuous, but good to see some aggression out of him, put a little bit of pressure. Don't allow Dark to get too comfortable in his position.
And this is Neeb's comfort zone here. If he can take a 3rd base, start saturating it, and he's harassing across the map with 2 Archons, that's when you will see him shine the most. This comes so fast, by the way. We're at the 5th minute mark, and he's going to be morphing those 2 Archons across the map. Dark still being very active with the scouting. He knows that this is coming, so for Dark, the key is to have just enough units and have them well enough placed.
The War Prism actually forgot that Archon there, didn't drop enough in time, but here we go. The aggression coming in, the drop comes in with those 2 Archons. They are devastating against Lings, and of course they can be microed very, very easily, picked up and taken out of there by the War Prism, which is why Dark is attempting to focus that War Prism down. Double pickup, needs to get out of there, he can't lose that.
Yeah, both players really making the most of this. Neeb killed as much as he could kill here, and Dark all alike minimized his losses, only lost units, didn't lose any drones. He's gonna be happy with this, especially when you chase the War Prism away with these little hit points. It has to regenerate his shields before he can come back, and then he's still gonna be very exposed. We see a Hydralisk Den here going down, actually. And he's getting roach speed and some roaches, so you have to wonder here, Dark, is he gonna go for lurkers, or is he just yet again gonna go for an attack with maybe roaches and Hydralisks, which again is something that we don't really see. Very quick gases, by the way, on the 3rd base here from Neeb. I don't think he wants to go into too many Zealots if he even plans on getting those, and rather focus on the Archon production.
Yep, and he's going in for it once again, taking a little bit of a risk, but of course the shields have regenerated.
I think Dark may be doing something very metagame heavy. If he was to go for Roach and Hydralisks, everybody's been going Ling and Banelings, so what's the reaction from Protoss? They get a ton of Archons. What are Archons really bad against? Roaches and Hydralisks.
Absolutely, the range on the Archon simply isn't up to par, and when it comes to Hydralisk damage, they can just shred Archons. It can be incredibly difficult to even get to grips with the Hydralisk, especially on creep, especially with that range upgrade. This could be a very, very smart counterplay here from Dark.
But Neeb has done really well so far, by the way. He's ahead in supply. It's been a perfect game. He hasn't lost a single unit, and he's killed a whole bunch. So he's definitely having a pretty good game there so far.
This is the Neeb we're used to seeing. This is the Neeb that's in the comfort zone. Look at that. I mean, there is no such thing as better efficiency than that.
That's the opposite of my games. And that War Prism across the map still being threatening. I think Dark might be trying to surprise there. Okay, the Hydralisk Den is spotted, and it's actually spotted that it's not being morphed into a lurker den, so I think Neeb must fly back now with that and make sure he starts and prepare for the defense. And I think he's gonna also adjust his composition a little bit, maybe get some Stalkers, maybe go into Disruptors. We see the 2nd Robo going down immediately. He knows he's gonna need a lot of Immortals, which he wouldn't have done if he was facing Zergling Baneling, because Immortals are terrible against those.
Of course, that wouldn't have worked out at all, and it was great that he flew over there while the Hydralisk Den was creating an upgrade. It indicates that that Hydralisk Den is not going to be immediately morphed into a Lurker Den. It's busy with something else. It's going to be Hydras. It has to be Hydras. There's no other option.
+1 finally finishing now.
There is the Lurker Den. I wonder if he's changed his mind now after being scouted. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Dark probably realized that the game wasn't going very well. He wasn't going to be super far ahead in supply, and this kind of attack just wouldn't work at this point anymore. So he changed the plan, if he was ever going to go for that, and now he's going to play a little bit more solid with some lurkers. He's going to have a lot of options, though. Having a Baneling Nest is always nice. He's even getting centrifugal hooks right now. But on the other side, we see a Stargate going down right now from Neeb, so he might already be realizing that there could be lurkers to try and get an Oracle and reveal as much as he can.
Well, we're seeing the Hydras move in right now. The gas count for Dark is a pretty high. He could morph in a reasonable number, but he's going to use the Hydralisks first, maybe thinking, can I catch Neeb off guard? Does he have the unit? And a lovely force fields right there. That's 3 free Hydralisks. In the meantime, though, a run by. We've got a Lynx around attempting to deal with the fourth base of Neeb, but Neeb's in a great position. His defense is rock solid. This is Neeb's comfort zone right here in the mid game.
I like his army a lot. The problem is really going to be in dealing with these lurkers down the line, and
that's
we
why
see
it's getting the Oracle.
14 of them being morphed in the middle of the map.
A huge number of lurkers, a massive investment, but the amount of damage output there is staggering. The Oracle is being added in there to ensure that detection is available. Neeb is anticipating this, but can he stop it?
And we've seen Zerg players in the past, like Nurture, really using the map overlay towards the natural and the fact that you can get in there very quickly, and Protoss can barely be in position or have the proper splits.
That's a lot of lurkers. He's looking to set up the siege. The Oracle is not in position to detect it. The Protoss army has to back off here. He's able to do that. Lurkers once again attempt to reposition. That fourth base is under grave threat. An entire mineral line could be absolutely gutted. Where is the detection right here? He needs to eliminate those lurkers, but he can't. He can't see them. The observer's now moving in behind it.
He's going to come in from behind with a lot of army after revealing all of those lurkers.
There's the revelation. He can see. He's looking for the flank right now, and he catches the reinforcements of the Hydralisk. The Lurkers now taking huge damage as the Immortals trying to hammer them down, but they are not quite enough Immortals to do it. GG! Ladies and gentlemen, a clean sweep. Dark takes it 3 games to 0 in a dominant fashion.
Dark sending a message to the rest of the players of the tournament. I'm here and I'm the favorite. And Neeb is his first victim here in these brackets. What a convincing series.
It really was. Got to be a huge disappointment for Neeb and his fans, seeing a 3-0 shutout and a convincing one. Map 3 looking much more comfortable there for Neeb. Looked like he had his tech and equal army supply, but again, we see things out of position. Where was the detection? Came in too late. And that is a dominant performance. There is a reason why Dark is the rank 1 player in the world right now. Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen Dark advance to the round of 4. Neeb, unfortunately, eliminated. An incredible performance up to this point from him. And we will be heading into a short break. When we come back, we're going to be bringing you more action right here from WCS Finals 2016 live at BlizzCon in the Anaheim Arena.
The reviews are in, and the critics agree. Overwatch is a perfect 10.
Psst, what are you looking at?
It's time to pick a side.
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console.
Neeb was the lone American hope, but unfortunately he does fall to Dark in a very convincing 3-0 series. So first of all, congratulations, Dark. The first question I have for you is, there's a lot of hype surrounding Neeb because he was the Kespa Cup champion. So I'm wondering, because of that, did you have any extra nerves headed into this match? 일단 그 닙 선수가 그 캐스파컵 우승자였잖아요. 그래서 그런 것 때문에 조금 긴장이나 더 했는지.
사실 좀 처음에 대진이 성사됐을 때는 그냥 쉽게 이기겠다라는 생각을 했었는데 막상 경기가 다가오니까 좀 두렵더라고요. 뭐 할지도 잘 모르겠고, 근데 준비해온 대로 잘 풀려서 이렇게 쉽게 이긴 것 같아요.
So he says, first when I looked at the bracket, I'm not going to lie, I actually thought I was pretty happy with it. I thought I would win pretty easily, but as the game day actually got closer and closer, I did start feeling a little bit more nervous, and I wasn't sure what builds I should use, but I'm very glad because I feel that everything that I prepared went exactly as I wanted, and I think that's why I was able to win so easily. And speaking with those builds, I'm wondering, I know that you said that you watched a lot of Neeb's VODs and matches prior to this match, so everything that you prepared per map, was that prepared specifically for Neeb? 일단 오늘 전에 그 닙 선수 경기들을 많이 연구해왔다고 했는데 이제 그 연구하고 난 다음에 그 전략을 준비해온 게 다 닙 선수를 위해 준비해왔나요?
사실 두 번째 판에 한 거는 좀 아꼈다가 쓰려고 했는데 그냥 좀 부담이 많이 되다 보니까 그냥 질러버렸어요.
So he says, actually that is true, but the strategy that I used in the second map was something I really wanted to save and use a little bit later, but because I did feel a little bit of pressure and a little bit of nerves when it came to Neeb, I decided to just use it against him, so a little bit sad about that. But of course, moving forward in the semifinals, you do have a Laser. A Laser has shown really impressive ZvZ thus far. He's defeated players like Solar and Nurchio, so how do you feel going up against him? 일단 그 다음 상대 선수가 이제 레이저 선수인데 레이저 선수가 강민수 선수도 이기고 너치오 선수도 이겼잖아요. 저그전에서. 그래서 그 상대에 대해서 어떻게 생각하세요?
사실 불콘 오기 전만 해도 외국 선수가 누구인지 잘 몰랐는데 막상 와서 보니까 다들 되게 잘하시더라고요. 특히 이레이저 선수가 좀 뒤에서 개인 화면을 많이 봤는데 좀 약간 저랑 비슷한 느낌이어가지고 많이 힘들 것 같아요.
So Dark was very honest. He says, prior to coming here to the WCS Global Finals, I didn't even know which foreigner players were going to show up here. I didn't know much about them. But now that I'm here, I'm noticing that a lot of these players are actually playing very, very well. When it comes to Laser in particular, I actually watched a lot of his games as he was practicing backstage. I stood behind him and watched those games, and he actually is really, really good. I felt even as I watched his games that a lot of his style reminded me of myself, so I think that it won't be an easy match by any means. But of course, you will be moving on to the semifinals, so congratulations again, Dark. He will be playing a Laser in the semifinals of the WCS Global Finals.
Thank you very much, Smix, and an impressive win from Dark there as he goes through as our second semi-finalist, and we'll be playing against a Laser tomorrow. Back here on the couch with In Control, Pig, and Artosis. I don't think we expected it to be that one-sided.
I don't think anyone, including Dark himself, really expected to be that one-sided with how strong Neeb has been. But Dark sets himself apart once again. Like, it was just fantastic play. I love how much cheese he mixed in because he is known as a macro Zerg, and he didn't get it to that like supreme late game that we were talking so much about up on the couch.
I mean, winning on that stage back there is where you define yourself, and I'm one of the biggest Neeb fanboys. It's really cool to be this excited about a foreigner, but this was a return to normalcy, I would almost say. Like in that first game, a very definitive timing attack. Neeb was just not ready for it at all. Plows through him. I mean, it kind of dragged on a little bit after that, but it was just very much so done. But I just have to, I just have to admire Dark's ability to get up on that stage. They're playing for $30,000, guys, at least. So even if he loses in this next series, that's really, really good money. But look at him. He's like calm. He's like, yeah, Laser should be a great series.
I mean, Pig, if you could give us a daily in 30 seconds, go ahead.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's tough to analyze exactly, but I think it comes back to what I was saying before the series. Neeb, he's been a little bit overly defensive, and I think you could tell psychologically he's having a tough time in the matchup. There were a few mistakes here. Jeff was pointing out when we were backstage, he didn't bring his Mothership core up for the defense at all there, where a few overcharges could have made the difference. And, you know, Dark brought the fight to him. Neeb sitting back, playing that reactive style, is embracing, saying, I need to play the better game, I need to play perfectly, and he just didn't quite bring his A game today.
Yeah, it was a tough loss, and I think the first game might have thrown Neeb off as well. He got so far behind, and when you get that far behind but play out the game, sometimes that takes a psychological toll where you're just flailing against something that you're never, ever going to come close to beating or even holding against. Like, Dark could have killed him at will, so that could have done something to Neeb that made him kind of fall apart on the next map, which truly he needed to win. You can't be the macro Protoss versus Zerg player and lose on New Gettysburg.
Well, I mean, and then going to this map, kind of to your point, Dan, like, he just must have been off, because this fight right here is lunacy. Like, first, he doesn't have detection, so he just is throwing units. But even with detection, Artosis actually backstage said if he had 400 observers, he's going to lose this fight. Well, don't tell Neeb that, because he stepped forward. And, you know, sometimes pro gamers have to make that hard choice where they're like, well, if I just give up this base, I die. But if you have like 8 Immortals, a good base of Archons, you're on 3 bases, and you sack that base, you at least have a chance to win. But in a choke position against 14 Lurkers, he could have had an army that's significantly larger than one he did, and he would still get slaughtered. So that's not the Neeb we're used to, is the point I'm trying to make. It's not like Neeb's back there like, oh, in control, tell me more. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. No, he's like, I know, I was completely out of sorts. And it was tough to see that, because all year long, Neeb is on these big stages, beating big players. But here against Dark, down 0-2, he made some bad choices and got swept. And this is going to be a tournament he's going to want to forget now.
However, Dark's on the road for his 3rd finals, perhaps, Nick. Into the semi-finals, 1 game left to go, obviously, before he does reach that finals. And kind of putting himself back up there is still a heavy, heavy favorite for this tournament.
Yeah, you can't deny his results from the year, right? As you said, he won in SSL, he got 2nd place. He won across finals, he got 2nd place. He destroyed the WCS point ranking over in Korea and has really been the Zerg over there, and shows exactly why here at BlizzCon. You know, I think you just have to favor him to go to the finals, even though the Laser's very strong.
He's in a good spot, too. This is something that I think you were talking a lot about in that round of 16 as well. He has a lot of ZvZ to look at with a Laser very recently, whereas with Dark, we did not see a Zerg versus Zerg from him. So obviously you can look back at his other performances and get it there, but most recently, right now, it's Dark that's got all this intelligence. He's playing against a guy from Poland, so right off the bat, he's going to be like, I'm feeling pretty good. Now, of course, we're learning. You got to have more, more faith in those guys, but Dark is looking good.
Is there any weaknesses, perhaps, Pig? I mean, he was 1st place in groups. He just smashed this 3-0. Is there anything perhaps anyone can draw to?
I mean, he's got so much momentum right now, and he hasn't really shown much weakness because he has been so decisive. We can talk about the map he lost to Stats, where, it went to ultra late game, where Protoss is maybe a little bit favored on that map, but realistically, Dark's decisiveness, his huge range of strategies is what has got him this far. As long as he continues to be as unpredictable as he's been this far while executing so flawlessly, it's hard to pinpoint any clear weakness.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Before we head to a break, though, we do have a very special guest who's in the audience right now here live at BlizzCon, and it is no other than Lee Jae-dong himself. Don't really need to say too much else. He's there with Smix currently. We're going to ask him a couple of questions in a couple of seconds' time. There he is. Hello, Jae-dong. Welcome back to BlizzCon.
I think that's the first time Smix gets confused for Jae-dong.
Of course, Jae-dong's had a marvelous StarCraft 2 career. Pig, you want to ask him a question here?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a pleasure having Jae-dong down here. He's had an illustrious career, probably known as the best Zerg of all time across, Brood War and StarCraft 2 when you kind of combine both games together. I just want to hear from Jae-dong, what is your best memory that stands out that you're going to be telling your grandkids when they're sitting on your knee 20, 50 years from now?
일단 그 프로게이머 생활을 오래 해왔잖아요. 그래서 이제 이재동 선수가 이제 이 다음에 할아버지 됐을 때 이제 조그만 아이들한테 기억들 그 많은 기억들 중에서 이 순간이 제일 기억에 남는다. 하나 꼽자면
2013년 블리즈컨 때 정말 많은 팬들 앞에서 게임 했었고 되게 많이 이기고 그런 세레모니도 하고 그런 기억이 아직도 많이 기억에 남고 그때 그런 얘기들을 할 수 있을 것 같아요.
So he says, if I had to pick a particular moment or year, I would definitely have to say 2013 was such a special year for me. I played abroad so many times. I was able to play in so many tournaments in front of so many fans. And because I was doing well that year, I was able to do a lot of special ceremonies in front of you guys whenever I won. I was able to meet you guys. So I think later on, when I am older and I am able to talk to my grandchildren about some special memories I have, I think I'll be able to tell them about all those special moments from 2013.
And this was, of course, one of them that we saw. He's playing at BlizzCon, a finalist of 2013. In control?
Oh, yeah. Well, Jae-dong, hello. First of all, such a sexy shirt, if I could just say so myself. I mean, looking fly as always. But I want to ask him, he came into StarCraft 2 as he talked about being a fan of Stefano and a foreigner and looking up to his Zerg style of play. Now we have foreigners kind of doing fairly well, making a dent here, not last match withstanding, but showing good results. What are his thoughts on foreigners kind of getting better at StarCraft?
이제 일단 스타2 처음 들어왔을 때 스테파노 선수 좋아한다고 했는데 이제 요즘에는 해외 선수들이 많이 엄청 잘하고 있어요. 그래서 그거에 대해서 어떻게 생각하세요?
사실 조금 놀라운 부분도 있고요. 이번에는 사실 이번 블리즈컨에는 해외 선수들이 요즘도 그렇고 블리즈컨도 그렇고 해외 선수들이 되게 잘하는 것 같아서 보기 되게 좋은 것 같고 이번에 그 앞서서 일레이저 선수가 지금 4강에 진출해 있더라고요. 그 선수도 만약에 잘하면 좀 더 스타크래프트 2가 좀 더 그런 글로벌하게 더 많은 관심을 받을 수 있는 그런 계기가 될 수 있을 것 같아서 일레이저 선수가 잘했으면 좋겠어요.
So he says definitely I was quite surprised. Especially when it comes to lately here at the WCS Global Finals, I was quite surprised to see how well the non-Koreans are doing. And in particular, if I had to point it out, Laser, who we just saw, moved on to the semifinals. It's really great to see that he's doing so well. And I think if he is able to move forward, maybe to the grand finals, even forward, then that will be so great for StarCraft. As obviously a foreigner doing that well can only increase the popularity. So I really do hope, and I'm cheering for Laser.
Cool. Jaedong, you've had such a storied career, definitely, one of the best ever in esports, and nothing left to prove, of course. It's sad to see you retire, but I just wonder if there was one more thing you could do with your pro gaming career, just like one more wish you could make, what would that be?
이제 그 프로게이머 생활을 정말 오래 해왔고 엄청 좋은 성적도 많이 내줬는데 딱 한 가지만 더 할 수 있다면 무엇을 하고 싶으실 것 같아요?
정말 어려운 질문인 것 같은데 한 가지만 더 할 수 있으면 블리즈컨에서 우승을 못한 게 조금 아쉽고 한번 해보고 싶은.
So he says, definitely that's a really hard question for me, but if I were to really nitpick at something, it would be that I really wish that I would have been able to become a BlizzCon champion. Obviously, he did come very close in 2013, so yeah, I would have loved to become a BlizzCon champion.
And hey, if I could steal one more quick question from Jay. I love this guy. Jaedong, you're one of the most beloved pros and one of the nicest, I've met a lot. And everyone just adores you so much. Do you have anything that you want to say to all your StarCraft 2 fans here?
이재동 선수가 인기도 엄청 많고 팬들도 엄청 좋아하는 선수이긴 한데 팬들한테 한마디만 해주세요.
그동안 너무 많은 사랑을 주셔서 너무 감사하고 앞으로 스타크래프트를 기억할 때 저 제동이라는 선수가 있었다는 것을 항상 기억해주면 감사하겠습니다.
So he says, first of all, thank you guys so much for showing me so much love. I appreciate that more than you guys know. And I hope that in the future, when you guys look back at StarCraft and the memories that you have with it, you can always think of Jaedong, the player. I would really, really appreciate that. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much, Smix. Thank you very much, Jaedong. It's lovely to have him here at BlizzCon in 2016. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's us done for this segment now. We're going to look forward to our next game that's coming up. It's going to be a Terran versus Terran. You don't know what you'll be missing this one. Beyond versus TY.